Guess who? It's KingsCast. We're back once again with another fabulous media roundtable. Enjoy it.
Man alive, I think I'm dying. Better get a second opinion of my health. My lips are swollen, there's pain in my colon. What are all these bumps? Do I have the mumps?
All right, so Jonathan Bernier traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Matt Fratton, Ben Scrivens, second round pick in 2014-2015, $500,000 in cap space. Dennis Bernstein, how does Fratton fit in with the Kings, and is this team better because of the trade? And does it make Penner? Does it mean Penner's going to go?
They are a little bit better, not a lot better. I think they could have got a little bit more. I would have liked to see Matt Reed from the Flyers, left wing. I know he's got $900,000 left, 1 year left on his deal and is a UFA. Can Matt Fratton play left wing? On the conference call with us, he said it's not as strong his position, so I'm not sure. Dustin Penner, he'd have to come back at a really deep discount. And if he wants to go play for the most money, he could go down the road to Anaheim and play for more money. I know the production wasn't there to merit, $3 million a year, but I think one of 29 other teams probably will pay more for Dustin Penner. Scrivens, he'll play here a year. Jones can go stay in Manchester for another year, work without any pressure. So I like that part of the deal. And the fact that Dean got $500,000 to keep for whatever move he want to make. The question with this team is still, and I think the big difference now, the Kings won because of their strength down the middle on defense and goal. Right? If you look at the Blackhawks this year, who's their second line center?
Michael Hanzus.
It's changed. Kane, Hossa, Sharp, Shaw, these guys, on the wings. Those are the key players, and that's the problem with this team is left wing. Dustin's been really good on the left wing for the Kings. Are you going to put Tyler Toffoli on the right, on the left wing from the right? He's never played there professionally. Dwight King, I think we're pretty unanimous in our thinking about Dwight King at this roundtable, right? Plays hard, tries hard, teacher's pet, not productive, right? So I think that's what you look at. Did that trade solve their problems? No, on left wing it didn't, and I think that's, if you look at it in a negative aspect, that's the problem, is that they could have used that asset to address a acute problem, because Tanner Pearson, big kid, might have some potential. You're going to buy, Dustin worked on the left wing. That was an experiment. He likes it over there. He's productive. Will Tyler Toffoli do the same if they flip him to left wing? I don't know. I don't think anybody in this room knows, and I don't think the team knows. So that's the one regret I have, is that they really didn't address their one major area of need with this trade with an asset that had value in the marketplace.
Dennis, don't you think that there's the Fratton piece, though, is a similar piece to what the Kings already have, or they have similar guys that play the role that Fratton plays? So when you say maybe they could have gotten more, maybe they could have gotten a left winger, do you think there are other guys on that team that play that role that Fratton does?
Yeah, and Fratton could be the third line right winger.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure at this point in time. John and I talked about, Mike Richards going to left wing. I don't know about that. There's just a gaping hole here. If Penner doesn't come back, King's not productive. They just don't have the depth in the organization, and I think like I said, they could have used that opportunity to use that asset to really shore up a tough role.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, DB, is I think that the $500,000 can't be understated enough in this deal. You're right. It's another bottom six, right wing, left wing. It's just another bottom six guy, and they have a ton of those. Matt Reed would have been nice, but they still needed a goaltender. And what would they have done to free up the money in order to get that goaltender? They made the decision that Martin Jones wasn't ready. And for those that follow Manchester, Martin Jones isn't ready at this point. He 2 years ago, he looked much better than he did this year. He was pretty inconsistent this year, and up until now, you have to trust what the team is saying about their goaltenders. They've done a great job of developing several of them over the last handful of years. So from that standpoint, I think the $500,000 is the most important piece, because Matt Reed may have been a good second line left wing, but there might be other options out there, and that $500,000 could come in real handy. They're going to need more than that $500K, but that $500K, it's a big difference when you're offering somebody $2.5 million versus offering them $3 million.
But Scrivens is also UFA after this year, isn't he?
No.
So I thought he was UFA.
I'm sorry, the goaltender, yes. I'm sorry,
So,
back to Fratton. Yes, Scrivens is.
So you can do what you want with Scrivens after this year. You can let him go after this year and make a move a year from now, if you're in a better position,
re-up
if somebody
with
steps up.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're basically paying Scrivens $125,000 this year when you add in, the money.
Yeah, so it's not really, he's a backup goaltender, terrific.
And Martin Jones would have cost you more than that.
Right,
You know,
so,
that's
so
why-
really not a bad move, right.
That's
right.
why I think the 500K
Sure.
is really the big piece of this, and you have to almost wait a few more weeks to see how the roster plays out to figure out how they're going to plug that hole at left wing. Because if it really just boils down to re-signing Penner and re-signing, everybody else that's on the roster offensively, talking about Clifford and Lewis and all the RFAs, is the roster really that much better with the addition of Matt Fratton? Probably not offensively. They need to score more goals. They've had problems scoring goals the last 2 years.
And it's not as if they needed, I mean, we keep talking about this hole at left wing. They won the Stanley Cup, getting almost no production out of Penner to begin with. So if Brown scores, if Kopitar scores, and if, the defense isn't banged up against Chicago, we may be talking about back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals appearances. So I don't even know that the left wing is necessarily such a huge hole as far as scoring goes. You could even put Clifford up there with Richards and Carter. Maybe it's not the greatest chemistry in the world, but if all you're looking for is somebody to replace 4 goals from Dustin Penner or 2 in the playoffs or whatever, and to play a checking role, I think you can do that without.
I think maybe what you're saying, if you paraphrase it, is that if you can get production out of at least 2, if not 3, and I'm talking significant production out of your top 6,
Yeah.
then you're going. And what this team has shown, though, is that they can't get, they just haven't been able to get consistency out of that group. You get Carter going for a while, and then he cools off, and then Kopitar's going, and then Brown's going. They need more.
For most great lines, though, if you look at it, it's really, the center, and then you have one guy who scores and another guy who does dirty work. That's it. So as long as you got, like you said, if you got one of the wingers scoring, you normally don't have 2 high-scoring wingers on the same line. If your strength is at right wing as far as the scoring goes, then you're okay as long as the left winger does the dirty work like he's supposed to.
Yeah, they want a playmaking center, they want a sniper, and they want a power forward who's going to create room for the other guys to make
Right.
plays.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect
Well, they don't have
one.
that.
You're saying they don't
have that. Right.
Saying that need a left wing isn't a major issue, well, guess what? The last 2 seasons, they didn't win the division, and that cost them a seed. The first 2 years ago didn't hurt them. This year it did. So Phoenix beat them out, right? And then this year the Ducks beat them out. So I'd say, and this is we're going back to 82 games, guys. Right? They're going to need somebody on that left wing to score 20. Like if Brownie's going to go 25 to 30, you're going to need those goals in an 82, and or else they're going to sweat and be that 6 seed again. And I think everybody agree in the room, they're never going to come from an 8 seed again to do it again. So they're going to have to be in the top 3, and they're going into a different division now. With the realignment, it's more dangerous.
They need a solid top 6, and that's whether it's the left wing or however you want to decide. They don't have 6 high-end
They don't.
skilled guys that are there to
And the
fill
2
those
teams we
roles.
finals
But
do.
what team does have top six guys? I mean, we were just standing around
Chicago
talking about
was pretty
Chicago.
good.
It's not
But
even.
we were just talking about how Boland and Kane weren't going during the playoffs. They picked key moments to chip in.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 6 guys in your top 6 scoring 20 goals each.
But that's the problem.
It doesn't happen.
The problem with this team, though, also, and nobody's addressed it yet, is that the bottom 6 that produced 2 years ago didn't do crap, did nothing, and that's where Boston, Chicago, Daniel Payet, the guys on the bottom from Stahlberg, Frolic, those guys scored, and that's why they got to the finals. And this team, if you look at the bottom 6, nothing. Nolan wasn't even in the lineup.
Well, that's really why the left wing on the second line, the left wing hole is so obvious this year, is because Frazier didn't produce, Nolan didn't produce, King didn't produce, Lewis, Stoll, all those bottom 6 guys, like you said, that chipped in goals and that were doing things in the 2012 run, didn't get an opportunity to do
And I
that
think
this year,
that's
or
what you
didn't
have
do
to,
it.
and if the organization's gonna change its focus a little bit, it's like more skill. And we talked about this 2 years ago, enough responsible guys, two-way guys, BS. Like more skilled players in this organization.
I'm not sure it's going to
As
happen.
long as they're not
I'm not
one-dimensional.
sure it's going to happen with that coach and with that philosophy.
Well,
and
yeah.
he even talked about that in his closing comments at the
Yeah.
end of the season. And the question was specifically addressed to him about, the left wing situation, second line left wing, do you want to get some more production there? And he was talking about defense.
Yeah.
You can be defensively responsible, but you're going to need more goals.
Yeah, I just looked at the 2 teams that made the finals, up and down the line, they were scoring goals. And this team, after the top 2 lines, where are they getting scoring from?
Yeah.
Okay, and they'll hold out people defensively, but, you're not gonna win the games too. Look, here's the
If you look
thing.
at the top 6 forwards, though,
Yeah.
it's always, basically it's the top 4 is what it is. You have 4 guys who score. Most teams you look at, 4 guys who score, and then the other 2 guys are up there. They contribute, they do the other things.
But when the
That's
bottom
all.
6 don't do anything, and
Yeah,
here's the
that's-
thing.
right, that's another
They
issue.
won a series scoring 14 goals in 7 games. That's never gonna happen again. It's never gonna happen.
Well, you don't want to bank on it at least, right?
That's not gonna happen.
If I'm a GM, that's not what I want to go into next
And I
month.
know guys were hurt, but you just need more skill in this lineup. And John's right, though. If you look at the organization and the philosophy, and maybe they got to look at it over the summer. Like, how do we inject more skill in here? And we'll see the draft, even though they're not in the first round, you know, they need more skill in this
And
team.
the two teams that played in the final were teams that could fly at both ends of the ice. It was up and down pretty much every single game. And I think when you look at the Kings series against Chicago, that was the one thing that stood out to me is they got outskated.
Yeah.
The speed wasn't there. Sure, they could play defense. Sure, they could score goals here and there, especially when they needed to in the clinching game. But I just thought it seemed like they were outmatched for
It might
almost
have
the
been
entire
different
series.
Had Richards not been hurt, that series might have turned out differently. But
And
I think
slow.
more so than speed, though, it's about the instincts. Because we talked about Hamzus when he was here. Everybody saying he was slow, but all of a sudden, he's good enough to be the second line.
He's a good penalty killer.
Look who he was playing with,
The
though.
Kings do
But
need
he's
speed.
still gotta keep
They've
sharp.
needed speed for a
Yes.
couple of years. They
Yes.
need speed.
Yes.
And back to Fratton, they say that maybe that's what Fratton brings. I'm just not sure with the minutes that he's going to get if he's going to give them enough speed. We're almost arguing
Well,
the perfect
that's why-
player though. So find a left winger that has a lot of speed that's available for around $3 million. The Kings will be locked into the number 1 or 2 seed.
But I think that's one of the reasons why Voinov, with his production this year, gets the nod over a responsible guy like Scuderi
Oh, yeah.
because of the speed. Because it's youth, I know that, and the skill level. But you look at a guy like Scuderi who's won a couple of cups, and you say you're willing to pay Slava Voinov this amount of money because he's got the speed, because he's got the instincts over a guy who's been there and has won a couple of cups. I think that speaks volumes.